Hey everyone, I'm Calluna, and it's time for more Game of Thrones videos! Season 7 is nearly upon us, so before that begins, we gotta get back to talking about characters they killed off in the show, but not in the books. Time to move even further north. This time, we'll be talking about those who were killed off either at the Wall or between the Wall and Winterfell, since a good number of them were more in the middle. As always, this video will contain spoilers for the show and the books, so you've been warned. With that, let's get started.
I'm not dead.
What? Nothing. Here's your ninepence.
I'm not dead.
Here. He says he's not dead.
Yes, he is. I'm not.
He isn't?
Well, he will be soon. He's very ill. I'm getting better.
No, you're not. You'll be stone dead in a moment.
Pip and Gren. Two of Jon's best friends at the Wall actually made it out of the battle at Castle Black alive in the books. In fact, it isn't Dolorous Ed who Jon leaves in charge up top while he returns to the bottom, it's Pip. After Jon is made Lord Commander, Pip, Gren, and Ed express resentment towards Jon since he's been avoiding spending any time with his friends and more focused on his work as Lord Commander. Sam tries to talk some sense into them, though they aren't too keen about it. When Selyse and Shireen arrive at the Wall, Pip makes some hateful comments about the Lord of Light near them, but thankfully they don't overhear. Jon does, though, and to prevent any possible trouble in the future, he sends off Pip and Gren to Eastwatch by the Sea. As for whether or not Pip and Gren will die, I think they'll be safe for now, but once word reaches them about Jon's death, and hopefully resurrection, they might be able to return to Castle Black and apologize for their behavior. Most likely, Pip and Gren will be among the participants of the battle against the others, so the likelihood of them making it out alive is probably unlikely. Hopefully they'll be able to make amends with Jon and Sam before that happens. Mance Rayder. Although it looks like Mance Rayder dies in the books, he is still alive thanks to help from Melisandre of all people. She uses her magic to disguise another wildling, Rattleshirt, to look like Mance, and burns him instead, while making Mance look like Rattleshirt. At the time, Jon is unaware of the magic, so he orders his men to shoot Mance to grant him a quick death. Upon hearing about Arya getting married to Ramsay Bolton, Melisandre wants to send in Mance and a small group of spearwives to infiltrate Winterfell. Jon doesn't trust Rattleshirt with such a task, so Melisandre reveals the glamour to him. Jon and Mance strike a deal. Jon will guarantee Mance's infant son's safety, with the promise that Arya is returned safely to the Wall. Here's the problem, neither the son or Arya are who they appear to be. Arya is actually Jane Poole, masquerading as Arya, and Mance's baby was switched with Gilly's baby by Jon, before Sam and Gilly left for Old Town with Maester Aemon. Aemon dies on the ship rather than at Castle Black. Jon did this to prevent Melisandre from sacrificing the baby or Aemon. Since Mance is considered a king, his son would have king's blood, which we know can be used for powerful magic. Mance, along with the Spearwives, enter Winterfell, where he claims he's a traveling bard, with the girls being his family members. He even performs several songs while in Winterfell. Several strange killings occur within Winterfell, causing tension between the various northern factions allied with the Boltons. This is most likely Mance's doing. Mance and Theon strike a deal to help Jane escape, though Theon doesn't reveal her true identity. As they are making their escape, Jane screams and gives away their position, forcing them to jump off the battlements into the snowbanks below. They manage to make an escape, but Mance and the Spearwives' fate remains unknown. In the pink letter sent to Jon at the Wall, part of it claims that Mance has been captured and that the women were all killed. Mance was stripped naked and the only warmth he's given is the skins of the women who were all flayed. Ew. Now, while in the show the letter was definitely sent by Ramsay, there is a very strong possibility that Mance sent the letter to try and force Jon to ride south to Winterfell and recapture the city. Unfortunately, before that happens, Jon gets backstabbed by the traitorous Night's Watch members. So, is Mance actually captured or not? The pink letter could have been sent by Ramsay, but it could have also been sent by Mance himself, or Stannis, or even Wyman Manderly. Since the letter specifies that Mance Rayder was captured, how would his identity have been found out? The glamour is based on an enchanted stone, so if it was broken in the fight, his true face could have been revealed. Mance has traveled to Winterfell before, and he's well known as the Wildling King. But are there enough people at Winterfell who would recognize his true face? Maybe? In general, though, due to some of the wording and the unlikelihood of Mance being captured or his true identity being found out even if he was, I think Mance is still okay. For now. One possibility is that Melisandre might try to burn Mance for real this time. If he has served his purpose by unifying the wildlings under Jon, Mel might not need him. Or if the snow becomes too difficult to navigate, perhaps he will be used in a spell to fix the weather, like Shireen was on the show. In any case, although Mance may have escaped the bonfire at the Wall, he might be in another one very soon. Shireen Baratheon. Out of all the deaths on the show, Shireen's was absolutely one of the hardest to sit through. She was one of the sweetest characters on the show, so naturally, being Game of Thrones, she gets one of the most vicious and painful deaths. Currently, Shireen is still at the Wall with her mother Selyse, while Stannis and his forces have moved south. In the show, Gilly got along well with Shireen, but that is not the case in the books. The wildlings consider Shireen's grayscale a curse, and do not want to be anywhere near her. Val, Mance's sister-in-law, even suggests killing Shireen to avoid spreading the curse. Shireen seems unaware of their bias towards her, and she is drawn to One, finding him quite fascinating. Although I'd like to say that Book Shireen will be spared her fiery death, it's one of the few deaths that is actually most likely to happen in the later books. In one of the commentaries for Season 5, the creators claimed that, although it has yet to feature in A Song of Ice and Fire, George R. R. Martin has confirmed that it was always his intention for Stannis and Melisandre to sacrifice Shireen to the God of Light. It would explain why Shireen was taken to the Wall rather than being left behind at Storm's End or Dragonstone. We already have Val and the other wildlings shunning Shireen, plus the weather is starting to become stormier. Unless this was a deliberate lie, it would seem that Shireen is not going to get a peaceful end after all. Selyse Baratheon. It was rather bittersweet to see Selyse showing some remorse about watching her daughter die, after being a complete bitch to her the whole time before that. While she definitely wasn't a friendly person, Selyse in the show is significantly nicer than her book counterpart. The show goes out of its way to show how Selyse became so bitter and a fervent supporter of the Lord of Light, while the book version just seems like she's always been that way. I doubt that if Shireen befalls the same fate, she's going to show any sort of emotional response to it. If it is done to serve the Lord of Light, she's going to find a way to excuse it. At first, Selyse and Shireen don't travel to Castle Black, but instead Eastwatch by the Sea. Selyse is unhappy with the accommodations, and even argues with Cotter Pike, the commander at Eastwatch. Once she travels to Castle Black, she acts with a very commanding presence, and tries marrying various knights of her retinue to some of the wildlings she considers to be of high position. For the most part, the wildlings don't agree with her choices. Selyse's belief about hereditary inheritance doesn't really gel with the wildlings, who believe more in one's actions showing off true leadership and power. With Jon Snow's death, Selyse may be in a lot more trouble. The wildlings don't recognize Stannis as a true king, and without Jon Snow there, it's possible Selyse may get herself into trouble with her temperament and fervent Lord of Light worship. I don't expect her to be around for much longer. Stannis Baratheon. Man, Stannis really got the short stick in the show compared to his book counterpart. While he is still very rigid and stern, book Stannis seems to be much more competent. He sends Davos to go treat with Wyman Manderly, which leads to Davos finding out about Rickon Stark still being alive. Stannis manages to convince half of the Umber forces to join his cause, along with the Mountain clans, thanks to some advice from Jon Snow. He takes back Deepwood Motte from the Greyjoys, capturing Asha Greyjoy and taking her with him as a prisoner. And rather than traveling to Braavos to seek out a loan from the Iron Bank, Tycho Nestoris instead seeks out Stannis, bringing Theon Greyjoy to him along with Jane Poole. To return the favor to Jon Snow, Stannis tells his men to send her to the Wall so she can be reunited with Jon. Just like in the show, heavy snows begin to fall, making it difficult for Stannis and his troops to march back to Winterfell. The pink letter sent to Jon says that Stannis' forces were defeated, but again, we can't confirm if the contents of the letter are accurate. In some of the sample chapters for Winds of Winter, we see that Stannis has been interrogating Theon for information about the Boltons, so presumably this is before that battle, assuming the letter is true. Although Stannis recognizes that Theon is remorseful, he tells him that to keep the allegiance of the northern houses fighting with him, Theon's going to need to pay for his crime of killing Rickon and Bran. Last we see, he fully intends to march towards Winterfell, though he is aware of various treacheries among his ranks and tries to use them to his advantage, like the Karstarks feigning loyalty to Stannis, but truly being loyal to the Boltons, which we learned from Elise Karstark back at the Wall. So, what chance does Stannis have in the books? Well, I think that Stannis actually stands a decent chance of winning the battle against the Boltons. He has a large army, Mance and the Spearwives have managed to cause distrust among the Bolton allies, and we know that the Manderlys are loyal to Stannis. The Manderlys in the phrase have been sent out of Winterfell first to fight Stannis' forces, so if the Manderly army turns against them, they could win. Stannis' forces are near some frozen lakes, which could be used against them as well. Although Stannis stands a decent chance, the weather is definitely going to play a huge factor in how this battle ends. If Shireen's fate is supposed to happen, she's all the way up at the wall, not near Stannis, so I suspect that this initial fight with the Freys and Manderleys will work, but the full battle against the remaining forces could still play out the same. I don't see Book Stannis sacrificing his only daughter. More likely than not, I expect Selyse and Melisandre to do it instead. So overall, I think Stannis will win some of the upcoming battles, but the main conflict against the Boltons will most likely not go over well for him. Alliser Thorne. And lastly, we have Alliser Thorne. Although he's kind of a dick to Jon Snow, the show kind of combines Alliser's character along with Bowen Marsh's and plays a bit with the roles the other Night's Watch leaders have. For one, show Alliser and Janos Slynt are actually in reverse power positions. Alliser is actually a follower of Janos in the books. He still is the one to give Jon the nickname of Lord Snow, though. He still acts antagonistically towards Jon, especially once Jon becomes Lord Commander, but anytime Jon issues a direct command, he doesn't act against it. He doesn't start anything when Janos is beheaded, something Jon almost wished he had done in order to get rid of him. Jon orders Alliser and 2 others on a ranging mission beyond the wall, and although Alliser is reluctant, he obeys in order to avoid a similar fate to Janos. He tells Jon that he will return no matter what. Finally, Alliser is not actually part of the crew that stabs Jon. Instead, Bowen Marsh is the one who leads that charge. Since these roles all kind of play out in a similar manner, it makes sense that the show merged the characters a bit. So, while Alliser may escape being hung for treason, I have a feeling he will make it back to the wall, but as a member of the Army of the Dead. His words are rather ominous, and we know that the army is making its way back to the wall. I don't expect him to make it back to the wall with anything useful. We already know about the army and the White Walkers, and Sam is at Old Town to research ways to fight back against them. I sincerely doubt Alliser has much further use in the story, other than to possibly guilt-trip Jon later in the story. He could feel remorse at sending Alliser to his death for petty reasons, which would be good character growth for Jon. So, there you have it. The majority of the characters who die at the wall, while most of them probably won't die immediately, most likely aren't going to make it to the end of the series. The 2 that were the most difficult to predict were Mance and Stannis, since the Pink Letter isn't a reliable source, and both of these men are hard to read in terms of battle strategy. I'm still holding out hope for Shireen, though it's probably unlikely she is gonna live. Do you think anyone on this list will manage to live for long, or are they doomed to repeat a similar fate to their TV show counterparts? Which characters do you think stand the best chance of living? Who do you think wrote the Pink Letter? Post your thoughts and comments below. Also, would you guys want me to do a video on the Pink Letter? There's a lot that can be broken down from it, and I think it would be a good predictions video as well. Well, next time in Game of Thrones videos, we're venturing beyond the wall to compare and predict the deaths of those killed beyond the safety of the Night's Watch. Thanks for watching, I'm Calluna, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye! Hey everyone, just wanted to let you know I have a Patreon page. If you're not familiar with Patreon by now, it's a website that allows you to donate a small amount each month to your favorite content creators. You'll get a bunch of different rewards depending on the amount that you donate. Feel free to check out my page to see what kind of rewards that you can get by helping to donate. Every little bit helps, and helps to make this show even better, so wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. Thanks.
Geek Vision.